What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I'm super excited to be here for another trade deadline video. Now, this is the last one, and it is a trade deadline review. So, I know I'm kind of late to the topic, a couple days anyways. Last Monday was the trade deadline, but I thought I would just hold it out till Saturday to make the video. There was a lot of action this past trade deadline, probably the busiest trade deadline that in my life anyways that I've actually experienced. So it was definitely very exciting, and I enjoyed every bit of it. I had the stream going on at school, and I watched pretty much the whole thing. So it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of big trades to go over, but I wanted to go over the top 5 winners and the top 5 losers. And as we go over this, we will obviously be talking about some of the bigger trades as well. So if you guys are excited for the video, make sure to drop a like at the bottom of the screen and comment your thoughts on the 2019 NHL trade deadline. What teams you thought won, what teams you thought lost, what players you thought would get moved that didn't go, and what players you didn't think were going to get moved that got moved. So without further ado, guys, let's get into the episode. Let's start with the better news, and that means the top 5 winners. So we're going to start with the Winnipeg Jets of the Western Conference, the Central Division. There were a lot of teams in the Central Division that made some moves, including the Nashville Predators. We'll get to them later, but the Jets kind of started off the trades with the Kevin Hayes deal. They acquired Kevin Hayes from the New York Rangers for Brendan Lemieux, a first, and I think it was like a 5th round pick or like a B-list prospect. So in my opinion, the Jets definitely got the better of the trade. Not that the Rangers didn't get what they expected for Hayes, but this trade definitely suited the Jets, as they did need a second-line center. Just like last trade deadline, they acquired Paul Stastny. This one, they got Kevin Hayes. He got a goal last night, and I think 2 or 1 assists. So he's getting off to a good start with the Winnipeg Jets. But the Jets definitely needed to get a second-line center. That's the only piece they were really missing for a long cup run, and they definitely got it in Kevin Hayes. And that caused a lot of other Central Division teams to respond, like the Nashville Predators. So the Predators, like I said, had to respond after the Jets acquired Kevin Hayes. They went out there and they got Mikael Granlund from the Minnesota Wild for Kevin Fiala. Sorry about that, Kevin Fiala. Now, Kevin Fiala, don't get me wrong, is a very solid young player. I think he had 31 points at the time that they traded him to the Wild. But they got a 70-point score in Granlund. Granlund had 69 points last year. 1 away from 70, so he's a very, very solid player. They started to throw him on the wing, the second-line winger spot, playing with Turris and Wayne Simmonds, who they got later on in the day for a 2nd and a 3rd. Now, I don't have the Philadelphia Flyers on the board right now anyways, but in my opinion, if I had to put them on one category, it would go down as a loser, just because I mean, they were expecting to get a 1st-round pick for Wayne Simmonds, which, in my opinion, is a fair deal. Instead, they got Ryan Hartman and a 3rd-round pick. So Hartman is an okay player, but he's not spectacular. He's not, I think he's definitely maxed out his potential already, and he's still pretty young. So that, I guess you could give the Flyers. He plays with a bit more grit, kind of like a Simmonds, but at the same time, I don't think he's going to get any better, and right now he's like a 30-point scorer. So if I had to put the Flyers down as a winner or loser, I would put them down as a loser. Back to the Nashville Predators, I thought they had a fantastic day acquiring 2 top-notch players, 2 of the players that were actually at the top of the trade bait list for a long time, and 2 fantastic players that I really think are going to give the Predators a chance to win the Cup. Last night, they dropped a game to the Winnipeg Jets. I don't know what the score was, but I definitely know that they lost it, and I think they're 0-2 with Simmonds and Granlund, so I think they'll pick it up, but a bit of a tough start for those 2 players with their new team. On to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So my favorite team at this 2019 NHL trade deadline, Kekalainen, the general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, went into the deadline, a lot of people thought, with his hands tied behind his back. Obviously, that wasn't the case. People thought he was going to have to trade Panarin, Bobrovsky. He didn't. He went out and actually was a buyer at the deadline, which surprised a lot of people. He went after Matt Duchene and Ryan Dzingel before the deadline, and then on deadline day, he acquired Adam McQuaid from the New York Rangers and Keith Kincaid, adding some goaltending depth from the New Jersey Devils. I love this deadline by the Blue Jackets. I think Matt Duchene and Dzingel, those 2 deals were perfect for the Blue Jackets. They gave off Vitaly Abramov, and they did sacrifice their future for current assets right now, but Personally, I think it was the right move for the Blue Jackets, and I think the Jackets fans are very excited for the postseason, and hopefully they will be able to win a playoff series. I definitely think they gave themselves a very good chance with the acquisitions. On to the Vegas Golden Knights. They acquired the biggest player on deadline day in Mark Stone. Now, obviously, you can see I do have the Senators as a loser for the deadline, so currently, I'll talk about the Senators later, but talking about the Vegas Golden Knights, they got Mark Stone for Eric Brandstrom, Oscar Lindbergh, and a second. They didn't even have to give up a first, which was a steal in my mind. That's kind of why I have the Senators as a loser. We'll get to them in a sec, like I said. This was a massive addition for the Vegas Golden Knights. They were still kind of missing that key piece, that key offensive threat, and they definitely got it in a player like Mark Stone. This guy could be, it was over a point per game when they traded for him. This guy will definitely be a huge piece for the Vegas Golden Knights for years to come, as they did sign him to an 8-year extension as well. In my opinion, fantastic trade by the Golden Knights. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do in the postseason this year, and I think they definitely gave them a shot at a Stanley Cup with Mark Stone. On to the New York Rangers. So this one might surprise you guys. I don't think there was really a better option to go for the winners here. The Rangers got 2 firsts for Matt Zuccarello, who actually ended up getting injured for the Dallas Stars, which just sucked for them. That must have been really hard for Stars fans. But actually, it was a conditional second, a conditional third for Zuccarello. If the Stars win one round in the playoffs, that second becomes a first. And if Zuccarello re-signs with the Stars, the third becomes a first. So they could have 2 firsts, or at least 1 first for Matt Zuccarello, which was fantastic. They got rid of Kevin Hayes. They got a first there. They got rid of Adam McQuaid. They made a lot of trades on deadline day, and I think they all paid off for the Rangers. So in my opinion, that is a winner. All right, on to the losers, top 5 losers. Now, these teams, there's some of them that, okay, some of the trades made them losers, but there are others that kind of just stood still and still obviously have a great shot at the cup, but kind of a lot of other rival teams did make trades to maybe booster the roster like the other teams didn't. We'll get to those teams in a little bit, but let's start with the Ottawa Senators. So the Senators, they traded Duchene, Dzingel, and Mark Stone, all 3 players that we thought at least maybe try to sign Mark Stone. They obviously did try to sign Duchene and Stone. They both said no. So this must just be horrible to be an Ottawa Senators fan. I was listening to TSN Trade Center, and some people said that the real losers of the deadline were the Ottawa Senators, and I agreed with that because, I mean, look at all these team superstars in the past. Erik Karlsson, Matt Duchene, Mark Stone, Mike Hoffman, Kyle Turris. They all got traded. They're all gone. Now, they don't really have a superstar really left. Like, who's going to be the veteran leadership in that change room? Will it be JG Peugeot? Will it be Peugeot? I don't know. Cody Cece's still there. Maybe that gets them excited. But as a Senators fan, why should you go out spend $300 on a Senators jersey for, say, a Matt Duchene when you a Brady Tkachuk, one of their young players, when maybe he'll just leave in a couple years. You know what I'm saying? So why should Senators fans really be attached to their players when maybe they'll just want to leave in a couple years, get out of Ottawa? So it's really in a tough situation for the Ottawa Senators right now. They didn't even get a first-round pick for the Senators, for Mark Stone, but at the same time, they did get Eric Brandstrom, which is one of the best prospects in the National Hockey League. So maybe to give you guys, your fans some candy, maybe you bring up Eric Brandstrom for a couple of games, show him off for a little bit, then send him back down. But I think Senators fans definitely took an L, and I think so did the Senators at this trade deadline. On to the Dallas Stars. Now, I talked about Matt Zuccarello a little while ago. Now, if Zuccarello didn't get injured, I would put them as a winner. I don't really think it's fair that I have them as a loser here, but I thought it was kind of hilarious. Not as a fan of the Stars. If I was a fan of the Stars, I would be pretty pissed right now. But just as a fan of an Eastern Conference team, I thought it was kind of hilarious that in his first game, he gets a goal assist, things are looking good, and then he gets injured. Like, you can't get any worse than that. So I think the Stars, I don't know how long. I think it was like about 4 weeks that Zuccarello will be out for. So he'll be back for the playoffs. If they even make it, I think they will. And then from there, we'll see what happens. But I thought it was kind of hilarious that Matt Zuccarello got injured in his first game. I feel bad for the Stars, but for me anyways, at the beginning, this is a loss for the Dallas Stars. Onto the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, this one might surprise you guys. This was one of the teams that kind of just stayed still on deadline day. They didn't make any moves, and for that, in my opinion, that is a loss. The Washington Capitals went out and got Carl Hagelin, who won a couple cups with the Penguins, so he kind of will definitely bolster the Capitals' bottom six. And they also got Nick Jensen from the Detroit Red Wings, which I think will be a good addition for that Capitals team. The Penguins didn't do anything. They got Eric Branson, which Canucks fans were just overjoyed that they finally got rid of this player. So, I mean, a team that, I think they gave up like a 4th-round pick for Gabranson, and the Canucks are actually happy, kind of shows that Gabranson isn't that good of a player. So I think Canucks fans are definitely happy with that. Penguins fans, however, not so much. I mean, you can't really blame this one on Jim Rutherford. They were up against the cap, and I mean, Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, Letang, Murray, those are all superstars. So, I mean, I don't think he had to do much, but I thought he should have done more than what he actually did. On to the Toronto Maple Leafs now. Okay, I know most of my fans are Maple Leafs fans. And before you guys start going into the comments on this one, I still think the Maple Leafs have a fantastic chance at winning the Stanley Cup. But they, in my opinion, on trade deadline day, they were a loser. They didn't make any trades to maybe acquire a backup goalie in particular. I think that was a big need for the Maple Leafs. And maybe acquiring some more grit down in the bottom six. I don't think Michael Furlan was actually on the market. But if he was, then maybe they go and acquire that guy. I'm not 100% sure. I'm running out of time on this video. I only have 15 minutes. But in my opinion, the Maple Leafs still have a great shot at winning a Stanley Cup. But I thought they could have acquired maybe a goaltender or a bottom six forward, and what it sounded like, Kyle Dubas didn't even try to acquire or start talking about acquiring a right shot defenseman. So in my opinion, the Leafs go down as losers on deadline day. Still think they have a great shot at winning the Stanley Cup. And last but not least, the Edmonton Oilers. Now, what kind of video doesn't have the Edmonton Oilers as a loser for the last 2 years? It's been a horrible last couple of years for the Edmonton Oilers. Hasn't got any better, didn't get any better at the deadline. I think the Oilers, they should have, like last season, again on TSN, I was listening to it, the New York Rangers, they put out a letter to all their fans saying that most of the core is going to be gone. We're going full rebuild. That continued this deadline day, and I think it worked out really well for the Rangers. They're on their way to being a great team in the next about 5 years or so, 3-4 years. Edmonton Oilers, they didn't do that. They're sticking with the same core. They didn't make any trades on deadline day. I thought they should have done the same thing like the Rangers did. But in my opinion, the Oilers should have made some kind of move on deadline day. Now, that's going to be it for this episode, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Who are winners, who are losers at this deadline day? I'm looking forward to continuing the videos. Make sure you guys go tell your friends about it. And yeah, that's going to be it for the episode, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. See you in the next one.